"Auntie, your husband is alive," said the poor boy to the businesswoman crying at the funeral. Rebecca Anderson stood motionless before the marble headstone, her tears falling uncontrollably as the last funeral guests drifted away. After 20 years of marriage, the 45-year-old businesswoman was alone in the world, with a company to run and a broken heart. Then she felt a small, warm hand touch her arm. Turning, she faced a boy of about 10, with tan skin, curly hair, and deep, dark eyes. He wore simple but clean clothes. "Auntie, your husband is alive," the boy said with surprising conviction. "I saw him yesterday at the train station." Rebecca felt her blood run cold. At first, she thought she was hallucinating. Then came anger. Who was this boy? What kind of cruel joke was this? "How dare you say that?" she replied, drying her tears with a silk handkerchief. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" "My name is Tyler, Auntie. I sell candy at the station. The man in the photo," he pointed to the portrait on the grave, "gave me money yesterday. He had a different accent, but it was him." Rebecca looked again at the headstone bearing the photograph of Michael Anderson, her husband. A respected businessman in New York City, he had passed suddenly after a car accident on the Long Island Expressway. "It's impossible. I saw the body," she hesitated, recalling something that had bothered her during the identification. There had been a scar on his face she didn't recognize. At the time, she'd blamed it on the accident. "Auntie, he was wearing a hat and sunglasses, but when he gave me the money, the wind blew his hat off." "It was him," Tyler insisted. "Please leave," Rebecca pleaded, her voice breaking between pain and confusion. "This is too cruel." The boy stepped back but said before walking away, "I'll come back tomorrow, Auntie. I'll bring proof." Already in the car on her way to her mansion in the Upper East Side, Rebecca couldn't stop thinking about the boy's words. It was madness, of course. Michael had passed 3 days ago. The body had been identified, though with difficulty due to its condition after the accident. But why would the boy lie? In the passenger seat, Dorothy, the housekeeper who had worked for the family for nearly 30 years, noticed her employer's troubled silence. "Are you all right, Mom?" the gray-haired woman asked. "That boy at the cemetery said he saw Michael yesterday," Rebecca replied, her voice barely a whisper. Dorothy crossed herself. Good heavens, how awful. Some people have no respect. You shouldn't listen to such things, Mrs. Anderson. But doubt had already taken root in her heart, no matter how absurd it seemed. The mansion was silent when they arrived. Rebecca dismissed the driver and entered, followed by Dorothy. In the living room, her brother-in-law, Daniel Anderson, waited with some documents in hand. "Rebecca, we need to discuss the company's succession," he said, not even asking how she was. Daniel, Michael's younger brother, had always seemed to be waiting for an opportunity. Now, with Michael gone, he expected to take over as president of Anderson Builders, one of New York City's largest construction firms. "Not now, Daniel," Rebecca replied, setting her purse on the sofa. "I just got back from your brother's funeral." "Exactly why we need to talk. The shareholders are nervous. We need stability," he insisted, adjusting his glasses on his angular face. "Tomorrow. Today I need to rest." Reluctantly, Daniel tucked the documents back into his briefcase and stood. "One thing, Rebecca," he said, pausing at the door. "Did Michael leave any personal items for me? Maybe a flash drive or documents?" The question seemed odd. "Not that I know of. Why?" "Nothing important. Just some projects we were working on together," he replied, forcing a smile before leaving. That night, Rebecca couldn't sleep. The boy's words echoed in her mind. "Your husband is alive." It was impossible, of course, but why would Daniel ask about documents or flash drives now? And why did he seem so eager to take over the company? The next morning, Rebecca was reviewing some papers in the library when Dorothy appeared, visibly upset. "Mrs. Anderson, that boy from the cemetery is here." Rebecca felt her heart race. "Send him in." Tyler entered the library with hesitant steps, gazing in awe at the shelves filled with books. In his hands, something gleamed. "Good morning, Mom." he said, approaching cautiously. "What do you want, boy?" Rebecca asked, trying to keep her composure. Tyler extended his hand, revealing a gold wristwatch with the initials MA engraved on the back. "He gave this to me yesterday, said it was for me to give to you." Rebecca took the object with trembling hands. It was the family watch Michael always wore, passed down from father to son for generations, a watch that, strangely, wasn't with his body when it was found. Where did you get this?" she asked, her voice faltering. "I already told you, the man in the photo gave it to me, at the train station." Dorothy, who had been watching from the doorway, stepped closer. "Oh my lord, it's Mr. Michael's watch," she exclaimed, recognizing it immediately. Rebecca looked at the boy, then at the watch, and back at the boy. "Why would he give this to you?" He said, "Give this to Rebecca. Tell her I'm okay, but I can't come back yet. It's dangerous." Tyler repeated the words as if he'd memorized them. "Dangerous? What's dangerous?" Rebecca asked, standing up. Tyler shrugged. "Just know what he told me, Mom." Rebecca walked to the window, trying to gather her thoughts. It was madness, but the watch was right there in her hands. How could this boy have gotten Michael's watch if he hadn't really met him? "Tyler, can you take me to where you saw my husband?" The boy nodded. "I can, ma'am. But he said he won't be back at the station till tomorrow." Rebecca made a decision. "Dorothy, cancel my appointments for today. And please don't mention this to anyone, especially Daniel." "You're not thinking of believing this, are you?" Dorothy asked, worried. Rebecca looked at the watch in her hand, the last physical memory she had of Michael. Or maybe not the last, if the impossible were true. "I don't know what to believe, Dorothy, but I need to find out how this watch ended up in this boy's hands." An hour later, Rebecca was driving her own car, something she rarely did, toward the central train station. Beside her, Tyler watched the city pass by the window, clearly fascinated by the luxury of the vehicle. "Do you live near the station, Tyler?" Rebecca asked, trying to learn more about the boy. "I live with my grandma in Queens," he replied. "We came from the South Bronx 2 years ago. My mom got sick and my grandma takes care of me now." "And how do you know the cemetery we were at yesterday? It's far from the station." Tyler hesitated for a moment. "I saw the man's photo in the paper, said the funeral was going to be there. I had to tell you." When they reached the station, Rebecca parked the car and followed Tyler through the crowd. The boy led her to a small candy and magazine stand. "I sell candy here almost every day," he explained. "This is where he stopped." Rebecca looked around, feeling foolish. What did she expect to find? Michael waiting for her. "Tyler, are you sure it was my husband?" she asked again, showing a more recent photo of Michael on her phone. "Positive, Mom, except he had a beard and was thinner." Just then, an older man working at the stand approached. "Looking for the man who talked to the boy yesterday?" he asked, surprising Rebecca. "Yes, did you see him?" "Yes, I saw him. He bought a newspaper and kept watching Tyler. Then he gave the boy some money and whispered something. I thought it was strange." "What did he look like?" Rebecca asked, her heart racing. "Tall, bearded, wearing sunglasses and a hat. He seemed nervous, always looking over his shoulder. The description could fit anyone. But the watch was Michael's. As they walked back to the car, Rebecca noticed a man in a suit watching them from across the station. When their eyes met, he quickly looked away and disappeared into the crowd. "Come on, Tyler," she said, quickening her pace. Back at the mansion, Rebecca asked Dorothy to prepare something for Tyler to eat, while she called her lawyer and friend, Jennifer Miller. "Jennifer, I need some discreet help," Rebecca said as soon as her friend answered. "What's wrong?" "Is it still about the will?" "No, I need to hire a private investigator. Someone trustworthy with no connections to the company's shareholders." There was a brief silence on the line. "Rebecca, what's going on?" "I can't explain over the phone. Is it possible?" "I have a contact, a former cop, very discreet. I can ask him to call you today." "Thank you, Jennifer." In the kitchen, Tyler was devouring a sandwich, while Dorothy watched him with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Tyler, how's your grandmother?" Rebecca asked, sitting at the table. "She's sick, Mom. She has diabetes. Sometimes we run out of medicine." "Do you go to school?" I do, but sometimes I skip to sell candy and help at home, he replied, lowering his eyes. Rebecca felt a pang of compassion. Regardless of the story about Michael, this boy needed help. Where can I find you tomorrow? At the station. Ma'am? He said he'll be there at 10 in the morning. I'll be there at 9. If you're lying, I'm not, ma'am, I swear on my grandma. After Tyler left, with some money Rebecca insisted he take, she went up to the bedroom she had shared with Michael. She sat on the bed and opened the nightstand drawer, taking out her husband's journal. She had never been interested in reading it before, respecting his privacy. But now she needed answers. The pages revealed little. Notes about meetings, some personal reflections, nothing that suggested problems or threats. Until she reached the last entries, dated 2 weeks before the accident. I've discovered something disturbing in the company's accounts. I need to investigate further before confronting Dee. I don't know who to trust. Could Dee be Daniel? What had Michael uncovered? On the next page, a more alarming entry. If anything happens to me, the evidence is in the place only Rebecca knows. Her most precious memory, Rebecca shivered. What place could that be? What precious memory was Michael referring to? Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Mrs. Anderson? This is Robert Brooks, private investigator, Jennifer Miller asked. Me to contact you. Mr. Brooks, I need your help with a delicate matter. Rebecca explained the situation, omitting only the part where she suspected Michael might still be alive. She asked him to investigate Michael's last movements before the accident, as well as Daniel's activities at the company. I understand, Robert said after listening carefully. I can start tomorrow. There's one more thing. I need you to find out everything about a boy named Tyler. He sells candy at the central station, lives with his grandmother in Queens. Any last name? I don't know, just verify if his story is true. After hanging up, Rebecca returned to the journal. Our most precious memory. What could it be? Then, suddenly, she remembered. Cape Cod, the small historic town where they had spent their honeymoon. Michael always said those were the happiest days of his life. They had bought a small beach house there years ago. They rarely used it but never wanted to sell it. Could that be the place? Rebecca sat down at the computer and checked Michael's latest financial transactions. 3 days before the accident, he had withdrawn a considerable sum of cash. There was no record of where the money had gone. She also noticed something odd, several small transactions to a company called Horizon Consulting. Rebecca had never heard of that company before. Her phone rang again. It was Daniel. Rebecca, we need to talk about the board meeting tomorrow. What meeting? She asked, surprised. The meeting to appoint the new president. As Michael's widow, you have the right to vote, but I think you should consider abstaining. You're fragile right now, and there won't be a meeting tomorrow, Daniel, Rebecca interrupted, her voice firm. According to the company bylaws, any decision regarding succession can only be made 30 days after the president's passing. There was a tense silence on the line. Rebecca, the shareholders are impatient. The company can't be left without leadership. I've been executive vice president for 5 years, Daniel. The company isn't without leadership. The meeting will be in 30 days, as the bylaws state. After hanging up, Rebecca felt a determination she hadn't experienced since the accident. Daniel was in too much of a hurry to take over as president. Why? That night, she rummaged through Michael's closet, searching for any clue. Among the neatly arranged suits, she found an envelope hidden in the inner pocket of a rarely worn blazer. Inside was a key and a note with an address in New York. City she didn't recognize. Rebecca barely slept. The next morning, she dressed carefully, choosing understated clothes instead of her usual executive attire. She tucked the key into her purse and drove to the station, arriving at 9 as planned. Tyler was already there, organizing his candy, in the small box he carried. When he saw Rebecca, he smiled and waved. Good morning, Auntie. The man hasn't arrived yet. That's fine, Tyler. We'll wait. They sat on a bench at the station. Rebecca took the opportunity to ask more questions. Tyler, what exactly did the man who spoke to you look like? He looked tired, Auntie. He had dark circles under his eyes. His beard wasn't well groomed, but his eyes were just like the ones in the photo. And his voice. What did it sound like? Tyler thought for a moment. It was like someone trying to talk differently, you know? But when he got nervous because the wind blew his hat off, he spoke normally. Like rich people talk. Rebecca couldn't help but smile at the observation. Did he say anything else besides giving you the watch? He said you should go to your special place, that you'd find answers there. Rebecca's heart leaped. KP. Cod. So that was it. At exactly 10 o'clock, Tyler tensed up. Auntie, that man over there has been watching us since you arrived, he whispered, subtly nodding in a direction. Rebecca glanced where he indicated and saw the same man in a suit from the day before, pretending to read a newspaper. Come on, let's get out of here, she said, taking Tyler's hand and walking quickly toward the exit. In the parking lot, Rebecca noticed the man following them. Get in the car, quick, she ordered, unlocking the doors. As soon as they were inside, Rebecca sped off, watching in the rearview mirror as the man ran toward another vehicle. Auntie, what's going on? Tyler asked, frightened. I don't know, Tyler, but we're going to find out. Rebecca skillfully navigated through New York City traffic, making maneuvers to shake off the possible pursuer. Eventually, she lost him and pulled over on a quiet street. Tyler, I'm going to take you somewhere safe. Do you trust me? The boy nodded, his wide eyes fixed on Rebecca. I trust you, Auntie. Rebecca called Jennifer. I need another favor. I have a boy with me who might be in danger. Can you look after him for a day or two? Rebecca, you're scaring me. What's going on? I promise to explain everything when I get back. Can you meet us now? An hour later, Tyler was settled in Jennifer's apartment. Though confused, she agreed to look after him. I'm going to Cape Cod, Rebecca told her friend. If you don't hear from me in 48 hours, contact investigator Robert Brooks. He has information about what I'm doing. Rebecca, this is insane. You just lost your husband and now you're acting like some spy movie character. Jennifer, trust me. Something very strange is going on. Michael may have left clues about something important at our beach house. I need to check. Before leaving, Rebecca said goodbye to Tyler. I promise I'll be back soon. Stay with Jennifer and don't leave for any reason. It could be dangerous. You're going to find him, right? Tyler asked, his voice full of hope. I don't know, Tyler, but I will find out the truth. On the way to Cape Cod, Rebecca made a stop at the address she found in Michael's blazer pocket. It was a small accounting office in a modest neighborhood of New York City. The place was closed with a for rent sign on the door. Strange. That's when her phone rang. It was Robert Brooks. Mrs. Anderson, I've discovered something that might interest you. Horizon Consulting is a shell company. No employees, no real activity. And guess who owns it? Daniel Anderson. A chill ran down Rebecca's spine. What about Tyler? The boy is real. Tyler Rodriguez, 10 years old. Came from Louisiana with his grandmother after his mother passed. Father unknown. They really live in Queens and he really sells candy at the station to help out at home. Rebecca breathed a sigh of relief. At least Tyler's story was true. One more thing, Robert continued. I got access to your husband's autopsy report. There are discrepancies. What kind of discrepancies? The body had a scar on the left forearm that wasn't in Mr. Anderson's medical records, and the cause of death was listed as traumatic brain injury from an accident, but there are no specific details about the trauma. It's unusual. Rebecca thanked him and hung up, her mind racing. The scar she didn't recognize on his face. Now a scar on his arm that Michael never had, and the body. It was so badly damaged she could barely look during the identification. She continued her drive to Cape Cod, more convinced than ever that something was very wrong with Michael's death. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The small beach house in Cape Cod was exactly as she remembered. Located in a more secluded area, far from the historic center, it offered privacy and a beautiful ocean view. Rebecca used the key she always kept in her purse and stepped inside. The place was clean, as if someone had been there recently. Normally, after sitting unused for a while, The house would gather dust and the musty smell typical of coastal towns, but there was none of that. "Michael?" Rebecca called, her voice echoing through the empty house. No answer. She began methodically, searching the rooms. The master bedroom, the kitchen, the living room, the small office. Nothing seemed out of place, but there were no visible clues either. In the office, she turned on the computer. Surprisingly, it worked, indicating recent use. The login screen asked for a password. Rebecca tried Michael's usual password, but it didn't work. She thought for a moment, then typed honeymoon 2005, the date of their honeymoon in Cape Cod. The screen unlocked. On the desktop, there was only one folder titled For Rebecca. Inside, a single video file. Her heart pounding, she clicked to open it. Michael's face filled the screen. He was unshaven, exactly as Tyler had described, but he looked healthy. The video had been recorded right there in that office. "Rebecca, my love," he began, his voice choked up. "If you're watching this, it means you understood my message and made it to Cape Cod. I know you must be confused, maybe even angry. I have so much to explain." Rebecca felt tears welling in her eyes. It was him, alive. "First, I need you to know I love you more than anything. What I did, faking my own death, was the hardest decision of my life, but I saw no other way." Michael explained that he had uncovered a money laundering scheme at the company involving Daniel and some shareholders. Millions were being diverted through Horizon Consulting and other shell companies. When I confronted Daniel, he threatened me. Not directly, of course. He's too smart for that. But he made it clear that if I took my findings further, you'd be in danger. I know my brother, Rebecca. He doesn't make empty threats. Michael went on to explain that he had gathered enough evidence to incriminate Daniel and the others involved, but he needed time and distance to organize everything without putting Rebecca at risk. The accident, it was staged. The body, he hesitated. The body belonged to an unknown man who had already passed away. A homeless man they found with physical features similar to mine. Daniel has contacts in the police who facilitated the identity swap. Rebecca covered her mouth with her hands, horrified. "I know it sounds like a bad thriller, my love, but it's the truth. Daniel has tried to hurt me before, you know that. This time he went too far." Michael explained that he had contacted the district attorney's office and the FBI, presenting some of the evidence he'd collected. An investigation was underway, but in secret. "The boy who gave you my watch, I met him by chance at the station. I could tell he was sharp and honest. I needed someone who could deliver a message to you without raising suspicion. They're watching you, Rebecca, tracking your every move." At the end of the video, Michael gave specific instructions. "In the attic of this house, behind the bookshelf, there's a safe. The combination is the date of our first kiss. Inside, you'll find all the documents proving Daniel's illegal activities. Take them to Prosecutor Catherine Foster. Only her, no one else. She'll know what to do." "As for me," he sighed, "I can't tell you where I am. It's safer that way. But when this is all over, I'll come back to you, I promise." The video ended with Michael looking straight into the camera, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I love you, Rebecca, more than anything in this world. I hope one day you can forgive me for this." Rebecca stood motionless for several minutes, trying to process everything she had just learned. Michael was alive. All the suffering of the past days, the funeral, the condolences, all based on a lie. A lie he created to protect her. Part of her wanted to hate him for it. Another part understood his reasons, and a third part, the biggest, just felt relief knowing he was alive. Recovering from the initial shock, Rebecca went up to the attic and found the safe exactly where Michael had said. The combination, March 22, 2004, opened it easily. Inside were neatly organized folders with documents, flash drives, and even audio recordings. As she examined the materials, she heard a noise from downstairs. Someone had entered the house. Rebecca froze. If it were Michael, he would have called out to her. She quickly stuffed the documents into her bag and looked for a place to hide. The attic had no exit other than the stairs leading to the hallway. "Rebecca," a man's voice called. It wasn't Michael. Silently, she moved behind a tall shelf at the back of the attic. Footsteps approached the attic stairs. "I know you're here, Rebecca. Your car is outside." It was Daniel. Rebecca took a deep breath, trying to control her panic. How had he found her? What should she do? The footsteps were now climbing the stairs to the attic. Rebecca looked around, desperate. For a weapon or an escape, she spotted a heavy bronze figurine on a nearby shelf and grabbed it. Daniel entered the attic, his eyes scanning the room. "Rebecca, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Just give me the documents Michael left." He took a few more steps, dangerously close to her hiding spot. "I know he contacted you, the boy at the station. He was clever, but not clever enough. My men saw him hand something to you." Rebecca felt anger boiling in her chest. Tyler. They knew about Tyler. "Don't worry," Daniel continued, as if reading her thoughts. "The boy is fine, for now. It's up to you to keep him that way." That was the last straw. Rebecca stepped out of her hiding spot, the figurine firm in her hand. "If you lay a finger on Tyler or anyone I love, I swear you'll regret it, Daniel." He seemed surprised for a moment, but quickly regained his composure and smiled. "Rebecca, always so dramatic. I'm not threatening anyone, I just want what's mine." "What's yours? You mean the money you stole from the company? The proof of your crimes?" Daniel laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "Crimes? I'm just taking back what should have been mine from the start. My father always favored Michael, gave him control of the company we built together. I deserved more." "So that's it? Jealousy?" Rebecca asked, keeping a safe distance, the figurine still in a defensive position. "Call it what you want. Now the documents, please." "They're not here anymore," Rebecca lied. "I've already sent them somewhere safe." Daniel's face twisted in anger. "You're lying. Test me." They stood in a tense standoff, sizing each other up. Daniel was clearly weighing his options. Just then, Rebecca's phone rang, breaking the silence. Without taking her eyes off Daniel, she answered. "Rebecca." It was Jennifer's voice, alarmed. "Someone tried to break into my apartment. We're okay, Tyler's with me, we went to my sister's place, but you need to be careful." "Understood," Rebecca replied, keeping her voice calm to avoid tipping off Daniel. "Stay where you are, I'll contact you later." Hanging up, Rebecca faced Daniel with renewed determination. "Your goons failed, Daniel. Tyler is safe. And you're about to lose everything." Daniel's expression shifted, a mix of anger and desperation taking over. "You don't understand, Rebecca. It's not just about the money or the company. It's bigger than that." "Then explain it to me," she said, buying time, thinking of a way out. Daniel stepped forward, forcing Rebecca back. "Anderson Builders isn't just a construction company. We have government contracts, political influence. What Michael uncovered goes beyond embezzlement. There are powerful people involved, people who wouldn't hesitate to—" He didn't finish, but the implication was clear. "And you're willing to be complicit in that?" Rebecca asked. "I'm willing to survive," he replied simply. "And you should do the same. Think about your future, Rebecca. What would happen if this information went public?" For a moment, Rebecca saw genuine fear in Daniel's eyes. He wasn't acting out of greed or jealousy. He was afraid. "Who's behind this, Daniel? Who's pressuring you?" Her brother-in-law hesitated, as if weighing whether to answer. "People you should never know," he said finally. "Now the documents. It's your last chance." Rebecca decided to take a risk. "Michael already sent copies to the FBI. It's over, Daniel. Your only chance is to cooperate." The bluff seemed to work. Daniel visibly paled. "You're lying." "Anonymous tip. 3 days ago. All the evidence. Do you really think Michael would be so careless as to not have a backup plan?" Daniel fell silent, processing the information. Rebecca seized the moment to move toward the stairs, but he noticed her movement. "No!" he shouted, lunging toward her. Rebecca reacted instinctively, swinging the figurine. She hadn't meant to hit him, just to scare him, but Daniel lost his balance trying to dodge and fell, hitting his head on the corner of a table. He groaned in pain, clutching his forehead, which was now bleeding. "You'll regret this," he muttered, trying to get up. Rebecca didn't wait to hear more. She rushed down the stairs, crossed the house, and got into her car. With trembling hands, she started the engine and sped away, leaving Cape Cod as quickly as possible. On the drive back to New York City, she called Robert Brooks. "I need your help. I have documents proving a corruption scheme at Anderson Builders. I need to hand them over to the authorities, but I have reason to believe I'm being followed." "Where are you now?" "On the highway, heading back to New York. Daniel found me in Cape Cod. He knows about the documents." "Come straight to my office," Robert instructed, giving her the address. "I have contacts at the FBI who can help. Don't go home or to the company." "Understood. And one more thing, I need protection for a boy named Tyler and my friend Jennifer. They might be in danger." "I'll arrange it. Drive carefully and stay alert. If you think you're being followed, go straight to a police station." Rebecca hung up and kept driving, checking the rearview mirror constantly. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows over the winding road through the Appalachian Mountains. Her thoughts were a whirlwind. Michael was alive. Daniel was part of a criminal scheme bigger than she'd imagined. Innocent people were in danger because of her. And she, who just days ago had been nothing more than a dedicated executive and wife, now found herself at the center of a conspiracy straight out of a thriller. Part of her wished this was all just a nightmare, that she'd wake up in bed with Michael beside her, everything normal. Another part knew nothing would ever be normal again. Even if she exposed the criminals and Michael came back to her, things would never be the same. As she drove, she didn't notice the dark car following at a safe distance. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us as we're just starting. Out. Now back to the story. By the time she reached New York City, it was already night. Rebecca went straight to the address Robert had given her, a discreet office in a commercial building in Tribeca. On the way, she called Jennifer, who confirmed that she and Tyler were safe at her sister's house in Greenwich, a gated community with private security. Robert Brooks was waiting for her at the building entrance. A man in his 50s, his serious demeanor and posture betrayed his military background. "Mrs. Anderson," he greeted her, opening the car door. "Come in quickly. I think you were followed." Rebecca looked back and saw the dark car parked across the street. Her heart raced. "Is that them?" "Most likely. Let's go up. The building has security, and they've already been told not to let anyone in without authorization." Inside Robert's office, Rebecca finally allowed herself to breathe a little easier. The space was simple but organized, with metal filing, cabinets lining the walls and a work desk with 2 computers. "The documents," Robert said, holding out his hand. Rebecca handed over the bag with the folders and flash drives she'd found in the safe in Cape Cod. "My husband is alive," she said as Robert examined the material. "He faked his own death because he uncovered a corruption scheme in the company." Robert nodded, not seeming too surprised. "I suspected something like this after the discrepancies in the autopsy report, but I wanted confirmation before sharing my suspicions with you." Michael said he contacted a prosecutor named Catherine Foster. "Do you know her?" "I do. One of the best in the New York City District Attorney's Office. Specializes in white-collar crime. I'll reach out to her immediately." While Robert made the call, Rebecca poured herself a glass of water, trying to gather her thoughts. If Daniel had tracked her down to Cape Cod so quickly, it meant he had considerable resources at his disposal. How deep did this scheme go? Who else was involved? "Mrs. Anderson," Robert called after hanging up. "Dr. Foster agreed to meet us right away. She's in a secure location with federal agents. Let's go." "What about Jennifer and Tyler?" "I've already sent a trusted man to keep an eye on the house. They'll be safe." Rebecca hesitated. "There's one more thing I need to do first." "What?" "Michael, I need to find him." Robert frowned. "Mrs. Anderson, with all due respect, your safety and handing over these documents to the authorities are the priority right now. Your husband clearly went into hiding for a reason." "I know. But if he's in danger, I have to warn him." In the video, he didn't mention anything about Daniel knowing about the house in Cape Cod. If my brother-in-law followed me there... The realization hit Rebecca like a punch. If Daniel had followed her to Cape Cod, he could be tracking Michael too. Robert seemed to follow her reasoning. "Do you have any idea where he might be?" Rebecca thought for a moment. "In the video, Michael mentioned he was waiting for me, that he'd come back when it was safe. If he was in Cape Cod recently, he might still be hiding somewhere nearby." "It's risky to go back there now," Robert warned. Not Cape Cod specifically, but there are other towns along the coast, places we visited together over the years. Hampton Beach, Martha's Vineyard. As she spoke, a memory surfaced. 2 weeks before the accident, Michael had casually mentioned Block Island, a place they'd visited just once early in their marriage. He'd said it would be nice to go back someday, to relive the moments of peace and simplicity. At the time, Rebecca hadn't thought much of it. Now, it seemed significant. "Block Island," she said firmly. "I think I know where he is." Robert looked skeptical. "That's a very vague guess, ma'am, and it would be dangerous to go there now. Can't we at least check? Call the inns, see if anyone matching his description has stayed there recently? He might be using a fake name, but..." "Here's what we'll do," Robert proposed. "First, we deliver the documents to Dr. Foster and ensure your safety. Then I can help you look for your husband, but discreetly without putting you at unnecessary risk." Rebecca reluctantly agreed. Robert was right. The priority had to be handing over the evidence against Daniel and the others involved in the scheme. They left the office through an emergency exit at the back of the building and got into a different car which Robert had parked there earlier. "Extra precaution," he explained as he drove through the streets of New York City, taking alternate routes to ensure they weren't being followed. They arrived at a nondescript building in Midtown. With no signage, it seemed to be a location the FBI used for covert operations. Inside, they were led to a meeting room where Catherine Foster was waiting. The prosecutor was a woman in her 40s, with short grey hair and an air of authority. "Mrs. Anderson," she greeted, shaking Rebecca's hand. "Your husband contacted me a few weeks ago. He provided valuable information but said crucial evidence was missing. I believe that's what you've brought today." Rebecca nodded, handing over the folders and flash drives. "Daniel knows I have these. He found me in Cape Cod and tried to take the documents by force." Catherine exchanged a worried glance with Robert. "This is serious. It means they're desperate. What else do you know about the scheme?" "Only what Michael told me in the video. That Daniel was embezzling money from the company through shell corporations, but he hinted at something bigger, involving powerful people." Catherine plugged one of the flash drives into her laptop and began reviewing the files. "This is more than embezzlement," she said after a few minutes. "It's a sophisticated money laundering operation involving high-ranking politicians, business people, and even judges." Rebecca felt her stomach drop. "How dangerous are these people?" "Dangerous enough that your husband faked his own death," Catherine replied simply. "But don't worry, with this evidence we can act quickly. We already have an operation prepared, just waiting for the final proof. Within hours, Daniel and the key players will be in custody." "What about Michael?" Rebecca asked. "He's still in hiding, possibly in danger." Catherine closed the laptop and looked directly at Rebecca. "Mrs. Anderson, I understand your concern, but your husband reached out to us for a reason. He knew the risks. The best way to help him now is to let justice do its work. Once those responsible are arrested, he can return safely." "But what if they find him first?" Rebecca pressed. "Michael Anderson is a smart man who planned every step carefully. Trust that he'll know how to protect himself." Rebecca wanted to argue further, but knew Catherine was right. Michael had exposed himself to enormous risks to gather that evidence. Compromising it now would disrespect his sacrifice. "What should I do then?" she asked, resigned. "For now, you'll stay in a secure location under federal protection. We have an apartment prepared for this purpose. Your friends, Mrs. Miller and the boy Tyler, will also be brought there. No one will know where you are until the operation is complete," Rebecca agreed. There wasn't much more she could do at that moment. As they left the building, escorted by FBI agents, Rebecca allowed herself a flicker of hope. Maybe, soon, this nightmare would end, and she could have Michael back. In the safe apartment, a discreet flat in a residential building in Tribeca, Rebecca found Jennifer and Tyler already settled. The boy ran to hug her as soon as he saw her. "Auntie, are you okay?" he asked, his big eyes full of worry. "I am, Tyler," Rebecca replied, returning the hug. "Thanks to you." Jennifer approached, still, visibly concerned. "Rebecca, for heaven's sake, what's going on? Armed men show up at my house saying we're in danger. bring us to this place, and now you arrive escorted by the police. It's a long story, Jennifer, but the most important part is Michael is alive. Jennifer's eyes widened in shock. What? How? Rebecca told her the whole story, from meeting Tyler at the cemetery to uncovering the corruption and money laundering scheme. That's unbelievable, Jennifer said when Rebecca finished. You mean all this time while you were grieving he did what he thought was necessary to protect me, Rebecca interrupted, suddenly feeling the need to defend her husband. If he'd told me, I'd have been in real danger, Jennifer didn't seem convinced but nodded respectfully. And now what happens? Now we wait. Prosecutor Catherine Foster is organizing an operation to arrest Daniel and the others involved. When it's safe, Michael can return. Tyler, who had been listening silently, asked, "What about the man who tried to grab us at Aunt Jennifer's house?" "Don't worry about him," Rebecca assured. "We're safe here." But even as she said it, Rebecca couldn't stop worrying about Michael. He was out there alone while powerful, dangerous people were looking for him. Was he really safe? Just then, her phone, which she'd left on silent, vibrated with a message. It was from an unknown number. "MV Harbour Inn, room 7, tomorrow, 10 a.m., come alone." Rebecca's heart raced. MV Martha's Vineyard. Her intuition had been right, but how could she get there? She was under protection, practically in custody. Leaving now wouldn't just be dangerous. It could jeopardize the FBI's operation. On the other hand, this was her chance to find Michael, to see with her own eyes that he was alive and well. Rebecca decided she had to go. She'd find a way to slip past surveillance and make it to Martha's Vineyard by morning. It was risky, but Michael was worth any risk. She waited until Dorothy and Tyler were asleep and the federal agents were changing shifts, a moment of more movement and less attention. Then, wearing a cap and sunglasses as a basic disguise, she managed to leave the building through a side exit. On the street, she hailed a cab to the bus station. From there, she boarded a night bus to Newport, where she could catch an early morning ferry to Martha's Vineyard. Throughout the trip, Rebecca wavered between determination and doubt. Was she doing the right thing? What if it was a trap? What if she compromised Michael's safety by going to him? But then she remembered the text. Concise, direct, with details. Only Michael would know. MV was their code for Martha's Vineyard, ever since their first visit there. It had to be him. She arrived in Newport at dawn, exhausted from the sleepless night but determined. She took the first ferry to Martha's Vineyard, feeling the sea breeze on her face as the boat cut through the bay waters. Martha's Vineyard was a tropical paradise, a preserved island with no cars, crystal clear beaches and lush forests. Under different circumstances, Rebecca would have admired its beauty, reliving memories of her previous visit with Michael. But now her mind was focused on one thing: finding him. The Harbour Inn was small and simple, located near the main dock of Harbour Village, the island's urban centre. Rebecca entered, trying not to draw attention, and asked for room 7. "You must be Mrs. Stevens' wife," said the receptionist, a kind older woman. "He said you'd come. You can go up, he's waiting." Rebecca's heart pounded so hard she thought it might leap from her chest. She climbed the creaky wooden stairs, found room 7, and knocked softly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the door slowly opened, and there he was, Michael, alive. He was thinner, unshaven, his hair longer than usual. He wore simple clothes, a white t-shirt and shorts, nothing like the impeccably dressed executive she knew. But it was his eyes, those familiar brown eyes she knew so well, that confirmed it was really him. "Rebecca," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. For a second she stood frozen, unable to react. Then all the emotions of the past days, pain, fear, confusion, hope, exploded at once. She rushed forward, pounding his chest with her fists. "How could you do this to me?" She sobbed, tears streaming freely down her face. "I thought you were dead. I buried you. I mourned you." Michael didn't try to defend himself. He let her unleash her anger, wrapping his arms around her when she finally wore herself out. "Forgive me," he murmured against her hair. "I had no choice." They would have hurt you if they knew I'd uncovered the scheme. Rebecca pulled back to look into his eyes. You could have trusted me. We could have faced this together. I know. It was selfish of me. I thought I was protecting you, but really I was afraid of losing you for good. She touched his face, still not quite believing he was real. Daniel knows about Cape Cod. He followed me there. Michael paled. Did you get the documents? Yes. I handed everything over to District Attorney Catherine Foster last night. They're organizing an operation to arrest everyone involved. He let out a relieved breath. So it's over? Almost. We're under federal protection until the operation is complete. Actually, Rebecca hesitated. Technically, I slipped away from protection to come here. Michael chuckled softly, a sound she hadn't heard in weeks that warmed her heart. Always impulsive. I learned from you, she shot back, allowing herself to smile for the first time in days. They sat on the small balcony of the room, which overlooked the ocean. Michael explained how he'd stumbled upon the money laundering scheme by chance, noticing discrepancies in the company's accounts. At first I thought it was just Daniel embezzling for his own benefit, but when I started digging I realized it was much bigger. Politicians, judges, businessmen, all connected. Why didn't you go to the police right away? I tried, but I realized some of the people involved had contacts in the police. I didn't know who to trust. He told her how after weeks of quietly gathering evidence, he was confronted by Daniel. He didn't admit anything outright, of course, but he made it clear he knew what I was doing. And then he mentioned you, said how tragic it would be if something happened to you. It wasn't a direct threat, but the message was clear. That's when Michael decided he needed to disappear to protect Rebecca and keep investigating without putting anyone in danger. The body, Rebecca hesitated, still unsettled by that part of the story. I had nothing to do with that, Michael assured her quickly. When I decided to fake my death, I reached out to an old contact who works with witness protection. He arranged everything. The accident, the body. He sighed heavily. It was a man who'd already died of natural causes, a homeless man with no identification. Daniel used his connections to make sure the body was identified as mine. He thought it would be convenient to have me officially dead. Why? Because then he'd naturally take over as head of the company. And more importantly, he'd have access to my files where he thought I kept the evidence against him. But you'd already moved everything to Cape Cod. Michael nodded. Exactly. And there were backups in other places too. The boy, Tyler. How did you find him? Michael smiled at the mention of the name. It was pure chance, really. I was at the station keeping an eye on the company's movements when I saw him selling candy. He recognized me from the newspaper, which had my photo because of the accident. I thought it might be risky, but also an opportunity. He seemed sharp and honest. I asked if he could deliver a message to you. He didn't hesitate. He's special, Rebecca agreed. He's under protection now too, along with Jennifer. Do you trust this investigator? Robert? Yes, he's been invaluable. He's the one who helped me connect the dots and reach out to District Attorney Catherine. Michael nodded, satisfied. So the next step is to wait for the operation to be completed. Then I can come back to life officially, he tried to joke, but his voice betrayed the underlying tension. Rebecca was about to respond when her phone rang. It was Robert. Mrs. Anderson, where are you? His voice was urgent. The agents reported your disappearance hours ago. I'm fine, Robert. I'm with Michael. There was a momentary silence. I see. Where are you? Rebecca hesitated, looking at Michael. He nodded, indicating she could reveal it. Block Island, Harbor Inn. Stay where you are. The operation began an hour ago. Daniel Anderson and 12 others have been arrested. We're sending agents to pick you up. Rebecca felt immense relief. So it's over. Are we safe? Almost. There are still a few targets being pursued, but the main group is already in custody. You must stay where you are until we arrive. After hanging up, Rebecca relayed the news to Michael. He seemed unable to believe it. It's over. It's really over, he murmured, running his hands over his face. I can go home to you. Rebecca sat beside him and held his hands. There's something you haven't told me yet. Why did you give your watch to Tyler? It was risky. Michael smiled, squeezing her hands. because I knew you'd recognize it. It was a symbol, you see, that despite everything, my heart was still with you. It always has been. Rebecca felt fresh tears, but this time from emotion. We still have a lot to talk about, a lot to resolve. What you did, faking your death, there will be legal and emotional consequences. I know, and I'm prepared to face it all as long as you're by my side. She hugged him, breathing in his scent, relearning the contours of his body against hers. We'll rebuild our life, together. In that small inn overlooking the sea of Block Island, Rebecca and Michael remained embraced, aware that the road ahead wouldn't be easy but ready to walk it together. Hours later, federal agents arrived to escort them back to New York City. News of the operation against the corruption scheme already dominated the headlines, though there was still no mention of Michael Anderson's return from the dead. That would change soon, of course. The story of the businessman who faked his own death to expose a billion-dollar corruption scheme would be a feast for the press. But for now, as they traveled back home, Rebecca and Michael savored these last moments of anonymity. Back in New York City in the safe apartment, Tyler ran to hug them both as soon as he saw them. The boy had already grown attached to Rebecca in the few days they'd spent together, and now he looked at Michael with admiration. "You really came back," he exclaimed, his eyes shining. "I told Aunt Rebecca it was you." Michael knelt to be at the boy's level. "You were very brave, Tyler. Thank you for helping me and Rebecca." Jennifer watched the scene with a mix of relief and skepticism. When she had a moment alone with Rebecca, she voiced her concern. "Do you really forgive him? After everything he put you through?" Rebecca looked at Michael, who was chatting animatedly with Tyler across the room. "It's not about forgiving or not, Jennifer. It's about understanding why he did what he did. He made mistakes, took decisions that hurt me deeply. But he did it out of love, out of protection. I can't condemn him for that. And now, what will you do?" Rebecca sighed. "First, deal with the legal consequences. Michael technically committed fraud, even if for a good reason. Then, rebuild. The company, our life, our trust." In the following days, the story went public. As expected, it caused an uproar. "Businessman fakes own death to expose billion-dollar scheme" was the headline in every newspaper. With Catherine Foster's help, Michael reached a deal with the authorities. In exchange for his full cooperation in the case against Daniel and the others involved, he would receive only restricted rights as a penalty, with no prison time. Anderson Builders underwent a complete restructuring. Many executives tied to Daniel were removed. Rebecca, who was already vice president, temporarily assumed the presidency, while Michael dealt with his legal matters. As for Tyler, Rebecca and Michael couldn't imagine their lives without the boy who had brought their destinies together in such a surprising way. With the consent of his grandmother, who was battling advanced diabetes, the couple began the process to become the boy's legal guardians, promising to take care of her health as well. 6 months later, at the beach house in Cape Cod, the place that had been crucial in this entire story, Rebecca, Michael, and Tyler sat on the porch, watching the sunset over the ocean. "Do you think one day all of this will feel like just a distant nightmare?" Rebecca asked, leaning on Michael's shoulder. "I think it will always be a part of us," he replied, stroking her hair. "But as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, we found our way back to each other." Tyler, who was playing in the nearby sand, came running to show them a shell he had found. "Look, Aunt Rebecca, it's just like the one on your necklace." Rebecca smiled, touching the small shell-shaped pendant Michael had given her years ago, a symbol of their love for the ocean, for freedom, and for each other. "It's beautiful." "Tyler." The boy grinned proudly and went back to playing in the sand. "He brought a light into our lives that I didn't even know we needed," Michael remarked, watching the boy fondly. "Just like you brought the light back into my life when I thought it had gone out forever," Rebecca replied, squeezing her husband's hand. Together, they watched the sun dip below the horizon, knowing that all the pain, lies, and separations had ultimately led them exactly where they were meant to be, united, stronger, and ready for the future they would build together. The end of the story. Dear viewer, what did you think of Rebecca and Michael's emotional journey? If you've ever had a moment where you had to trust in the impossible, tell us in the comments. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.